I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
This is Snowman in the Morning, and it begins now.
Did you not get the memo? I'm the juggernaut, bitch!
Excellent.
And that's all she wrote. Damian Jones will dribble it to the front court. The Warriors with their third consecutive sweep. It used to be that the West came through the Alamo. It now comes through the Golden Gate Bridge as the Golden State Warriors have beaten the San Antonio Spurs 129-115. And they capture the West. And even though it is a 4-game sweep, well, your magic number tonight might be 3. It's the third straight sweep for the Golden State Warriors. It's the third straight year the Warriors are the Western Conference champions, and it's the third straight year that the Golden State Warriors are going to the NBA Finals.
Good morning, early birds. This time, Express Edition of Snowman in the Morning. And we are presented by Cleaver Supplements, pure supplements for when genetics are just not enough. And I want to thank you guys for listening to yesterday's show. Had a good turnout. Let's keep making the turnout better as we drive toward our big launch, which will be June 5th. June 5th. Follow us online. The ID you need is at SIT Morning. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and all of the social media. And the new website, snowmaninthemorning.com, will launch on June 5th. That's also where you can hear the show. We're working on video where you can watch the show as well. Just all kinds of things we're going to put in place. We're going to have the whole setup done by Labor Day weekend. But we're doing it one piece at a time, and we're building to where we were once before. But inconsistency on my part killed it. And I owe you fans an apology for that. Now let's get down to business, shall we? There were not one but 2 conference champions crowned yesterday. Our congratulations to the Golden State Warriors. They swept the Spurs 4-0. I'll have my take on that in a few moments. But also congratulations to the 8th-seeded Nashville Predators of the NHL, reaching their first Stanley Cup final. And I couldn't be more proud of a team. Yes, I'm a Blackhawks fan, but when Nashville eliminated the top-seeded Blackhawks in the fashion that they did, I noted, along with my good buddy Mike Green, who will be on in a week's time, I want to time it that way, to give his thoughts as well on everything that's going on. You can tell it's early because all the trucks are getting cranked up and rolling here where I am, but we want to thank everybody for tuning us in. Now, this is why it's an Express Edition, because I said yesterday during the show that I was happy that the Golden State Warriors were up 3-0, but I was also sad for the San Antonio Spurs. Now I'm changing that. I'm proud of this Spurs team, of how they fought through all the difficulties and all the injuries and everything they've had to deal with. Losing Tony Parker, losing Kawhi Leonard, losing David Lee, even with the inconsistencies they've had in their play, you couldn't be more proud of a team than you could be of the San Antonio Spurs. Yeah, I'm happy the Warriors won the Western Conference Finals. But I've said all along at the top of the year that if any team could give Golden State any kind of ruckus, it would be the San Antonio Spurs. It's just a shame that they were wounded when they reached the West Finals. But there's one player in particular that I want to pay tribute to. His name is Manu Ginobili. He spent his entire career in San Antonio. He's won 4 championships. He's one of the faces of the franchise. Everyone talks about the core 4 with the Yankees, with Andy Pettitte, Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, and Mariano Rivera. Well, when Ginobili was drafted, it wound up being the core three. Well, four when they started with David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. But for the entirety of Tim Duncan's career, even after the Admiral retired, it was Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. And as much as I don't want to think this, as much as I don't want to even fathom the thought of this, could last night's game have been the end for Manu Ginobili? And one of my good buddies, Todd Mintz, provided a very good question. Would this start a slow decline of the team that has been the model of consistency for 20 plus years in the Spurs? I'm hoping that's not the case, because they have some very, very good talent. Simmons and Dedmon and a few others that they have are going to be the pieces of the future for them. You have to wonder if LaMarcus Aldridge is going to stay. You have to wonder if David Lee is going to stay. Pau Gasol. How young will the Spurs get? Who will they retain? Who will they let go? But last night, as much as it was about the Warriors winning the West, it was all about Manu Ginobili in what could be his final game. Now, yeah, there's a lot of speculation, and I'm one of the ones who's speculating it, that this is it for Manu. Could be totally, totally wrong. And I would hope to be wrong in considering Ginobili may retire. But if it was his last one, and let me add this thought as well, because one of my good buddies, Eric Collins, made a comment on a post I made on Facebook. I don't think Manu Ginobili, he said, I quote, I don't think Manu would go out being swept. Very, very true. Manu is just that kind of competitor. Same with Tony Parker. Same with this Spurs team. I don't think they're going to break them up. And all that is Coach Popovich. You rarely see one coach with the same team for as long as Popovich has been with San Antonio. When Popovich does decide to retire, when he's got gray hair down his back and his beard covers up his tie, and I'm joking around as I say this, I think with Coach Popovich, you'd have to put him in a wheelchair and make sure he doesn't walk and can't walk the sidelines. What I also enjoyed at the end of the game last night was the exchange and the handshakes and the love shown by both teams. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of people think that Oklahoma City, and Golden State will be a rivalry. No, it's going to be the Warriors and the Spurs that are going to be the rivalry for years to come in the Western Conference. These are two of the classiest teams in the NBA. And they showed that to each other at the end last night. When Manu Ginobili walked off the floor for the final time this season, I'll say it again, you just have to wonder if this would be it for Ginobili. And I'm hoping it's not. I really am. Manu is such a competitor and such a wonderful basketball player. He brought the European style into the current NBA. Now, I did blame him in an earlier Snowman's take that I did a long time ago about introducing the Euro step. But you know something? It's become part of the NBA, and I have to accept that. But once again, his impact is far beyond what he's done on the floor. His impact on the city of San Antonio reaches far beyond what he did on the floor. And as a good friend of mine would say, and say very, very eloquently, Manu, all the best to you if this is your final game. Hoping it's not, but nonetheless, all the best to you. I guess we won't find out until late in the summer if he's going to put on number 20 again. And again, I'm hoping he does. But if he doesn't, you got nothing to be ashamed about, Manu. And the San Antonio Spurs, you got nothing to be ashamed about either. They just couldn't overcome the injuries. Well, what do you know? Snowman's Take will lead off the show. We'll dive into the numbers of this Golden State victory. They sweep the Spurs 4-0, but I guarantee you these two teams will hook up again in the Western Conference Finals in the very near future. Gonna pause for a 2-minute timeout, and when we come back, a little further breakdown of the Western Conference Finals. And then an argument I think should be put to bed immediately. Snowman in the Morning, the Express Edition. Back in the deuce.
Hey, honey, is this your course schedule for the fall?
Yep.
Let me see here. English, good. Chemistry, trigonometry, excellent. World history, I love world history. Baseball? Wait, baseball? Baseball isn't a course, honey.
Well, sure it is, Mom. High school sports are about so much more than winning and losing. They teach lessons that can't be taught in a classroom, like accountability and self-discipline, the value of teamwork. I may not be earning a grade, but I'm learning how to compete later in life. Isn't that what getting a good education is all about?
Yes, of course it is. I was just testing you.
What can teenagers here in Illinois learn from participating in high school sports? Plenty, as it turns out. That's why they're called education-based athletics.
High school sports. They're so much more than just a game.
This message presented by the Illinois High School Association and the Illinois Athletic Directors Association. There's just one place where students are students first, and athletics are played with purpose and perspective. That place is your local high school. High school sports offer more than the joy of competition. Studies show that student athletes in Illinois are also likely to enjoy greater levels of achievement in other areas of their lives, including academics. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Illinois High School Association and the Illinois Athletic Directors Association.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do.
Know someone being bullied online? You can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Excellent.
Snowman in the Morning is back on this Tuesday. We're presented by Cleaver Supplements. Hey, if you want to sponsor our programming, you can do so for as low as $25 a month. Drop an email to bsnow@arenasportsnet.com or sales@arenasportsnet.com. Get your brand out there, and we will give you the vehicle to do so. Talking Western Conference Finals this morning, and gave my little tribute to Manu and the Spurs, but let's dive into the facts of the Western Conference Finals. And the facts are these. The Spurs had every opportunity to win Game 1. It changed when Kawhi Leonard went down with his injury in Game 1. If Kawhi Leonard stays healthy, it's a cakewalk. It's a 4-game sweep for San Antonio, period. The Warriors had no answer for their bigs. The impact of one man, that man being Kawhi Leonard, far-reaching for San Antonio. But again, couldn't fight the injury bug because remember, they lost Tony Parker earlier in the playoffs. That was the only game, game one, that the Warriors did not shoot at least 50% from the floor. They shot 48.1. Every other game, they shot at least 50% from the floor. And last night, 56% from the floor. This is the most dangerous team in the NBA right now. Period. And whoever comes out of the East, be it Boston or be it Cleveland, you're going to have to contend with a Golden State team that is whole, that is healthy, that is hot right now. The Warriors become the first team to start the playoffs 12-0. And the reason it's not 11-0 because in 2003, the first round was extended to 7 games from the original 5-game format. Now, this could be also a curse for Golden State. Remember the Lakers in 1989? Swept all their series. They get to the finals against Detroit, and they too were injured and got swept by the Detroit Pistons. It could very well happen. But you're talking about a team that's averaging, in terms of shooting, 52% from the floor in the playoffs. Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry leading the charge. Klay Thompson pitching in. Draymond Green. You got 4 All-Stars on that team. And you wonder how either Cleveland or Boston is going to contend with that 4-headed monster. And a question was posed to me, what about the Warriors bench? The Warriors bench is light. No, it's not. I don't put anything past this Golden State bench. I don't put anything past this team because remember, they were up 3-1 in the finals last year. It's well documented. All the folks that were so happy to see Golden State lose the NBA championship last year in 7 games on their home floor. And if y'all go back to yesterday's show, I kind of went off on a certain player and gave my thoughts of who should have been, the finals MVP. But that's water beyond the bridge. That was last year. This is this year. They didn't win 70 games this year, but they won 67. They still had the best. They still wound up with the best record in the NBA, even dealing with the loss of Kevin Durant for 19 games. This Warriors team is on a mission. And I heard on a sports show, title or bust. Well, they got 4 more to get. And I have the feeling, let me pose this question. Can the Warriors sweep their way to the championship? Certainly they can. Will they? I don't think so. I think that first, when Golden State tastes that first playoff loss, A, it's going to occur in the finals. B, it's going to knock them back to earth and get them back focused again. But at the same time, you can't help but think that they can win the next 4. Love what Stephen Curry said last night. We got 4 more to get. Oh, baby. And the next 4 is going to be so huge to bring the title back. I'll go ahead and say it. To bring the title back to where it belongs. Question has been posed, can anyone stop the Golden State Warriors? My answer is no. I don't think anyone can stop the Warriors as hot as they are right now. And there's one thing you have to remember. They're doing all of this. The question was posed, can the Warriors sweep their way to a championship? The way they're playing? Hell yeah, they can. Will they? That remains to be seen. Oh, that remains to be seen. I'd love for it to happen. Law of averages says it won't. But I don't think they'll be stopped from hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy. I really don't think they'll be stopped in hoisting the trophy and bringing the title back to the Bay. Boy, we talked a lot of basketball so far. We got more for you on this express edition of Snowman in the Morning. When we come back, an argument that needs to be put to rest immediately. And I think y'all know where I'm going. One of my producers, Quirvante Hurd, brought this to my attention. I'm going to go with it. You'll find out which way I'm going in a deuce.
I want to thank my mommy for loving me so much,
for taking me to the doctor when I broke my foot,
for leaving me alone when I wanted to be alone.
And now, as a grown-up, I'm thankful for being able to take care of you, my dear mom, for taking you to your therapies, for understanding that sometimes you simply want to be alone.
Roles change without us noticing. That's why AARP gives you the information to provide even better care for your loved one. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Andrew is on the JV tennis team, whose season is over. The varsity team is in the state tournament and still practicing. Practices are open to anyone on the team, JV or varsity. Why will Andrew go to practice even though he doesn't have to? When students participate in IHSA activities, they learn the values and skills necessary to get ahead in today's competitive world. So don't just go to school, go beyond with the IHSA.
The Illinois High School Association. Challenge yourself.
Back here in our Being Built Cleaver Supplement Studios, Snowman in the Morning is back on this Tuesday. Brought to you in part by Cleaver Supplements, a proud sponsor of Arena Sportsnet programming. Want to get your brand out there? All you got to do is drop an email to bsnow@arenasportsnet.com or sales@arenasportsnet.com. You can hear your brand mentioned during our programming for as low as $25 a month. And there's a lot that goes with that. Okay. My producers are Mark Kelly and Quirvante Hurd. And Quirvante gave me a subject that I didn't want to touch, that I laughed at, but he handed it to me and said, go with it. It's this silly, it's this stupid argument of comparing LeBron to Michael Jordan. Really? You're actually going to put that in front of me? And I'm not talking to Quirvante when I say that. I'm talking to the people that see LeBron's numbers. And in some cases, he has passed MJ on numbers alone. That's only because LeBron's played 14 years already. And MJ retired twice and wound up playing 15 years. Okay? Now, I was thrown one number. And Quirvante, I have to thank you for throwing this at me. Actually, I got to thank Sean Mann, one of my other producers, for throwing this. And it goes a little something like this. In the playoff history of Michael Jeffrey Jordan, there was not one game in his entire playoff career where he's had less than 15 points. Oh, you didn't hear me? Let me try that again. In Michael Jordan's entire playoff history, and it's one hell of a history, there has not been a game where Michael Jordan did not have at least 15 points. Why am I bringing this stat up? It's pretty simple. LeBron has had 6 of them in his 14-year career. And guess what? He lost them all. Now, if you want to go a little further with the LeBron versus MJ argument, okay, let's go a little further. Let's start with the top number, NBA championships. Mike has 6, LeBron has 3. Here's the difference. In 6 trips to the NBA Finals, MJ has won them all. In 7 trips to the NBA Finals, LeBron's only won 3. And it's come with 2 different teams. You didn't hear me? Let me try that again. MJ went to the finals 6 times, won them all. LeBron's been to the finals 7 times, won 3. 2 with Miami and 1 with Cleveland. And y'all know how I feel about what happened last year in the finals. Everyone has asked me over the years, why do you have such an unbridled disdain for LeBron James? Here's my answer. And it comes with a preface, and the preface is this. I am not saying, nor will I ever say, that LeBron James is not one hell of an athlete. I will not say, nor will I ever say, that LeBron James's philanthropic efforts in the community goes unnoticed. Never will say that. This is the problem that I've had with LeBron James for the entirety of his career. Nike handed him a $90 million contract before he put foot to NBA floor. That's one of my biggest issues. He had not proven himself on the floor before Nike decided to hand him a whole stack of money. With Michael, he proved himself in 3 years at North Carolina. Oh, I don't know, game-winning shot against Georgetown as a freshman in front of 63,000 people. The date was March 29, 1982. Scene of the crime, Louisiana Superdome. Y'all remember that, don't you? And I hated Michael Jordan for all of 24 hours, but then he became one of my favorite players of all time. Because I was pulling for Georgetown that night, and a fellow by the name of Patrick Ewing. Then I got to see Mike play more and more and more, and I'm going, damn, he's good. I can't say that about LeBron. I can't. Numbers be damned. And I'll bring up a stat again that I mentioned at the top of this discussion. In Michael Jordan's playoff career, he has not had a game where he's had less than 15 points. He scored at least 15 in every playoff game he's appeared in. Who the hell am I kidding? He's averaged 30, I think it's 32.7 in his playoff career. LeBron has had 6 playoff games where he scored less than 15 points, the latest being Sunday night against Boston. And he lost them all. My friend Justin posted a picture in a group discussion that I have with Sean and Josh Lopez and the folks from the Sports Drive, where he screenshotted a picture with Michael Jordan shooting 2 for 22. Justin, you seem to forget something. There are 4 quarters in a game, bud. And I'm having fun with this. But don't make this stupid, silly, idiotic comparison of LeBron to MJ. What is LeBron's impact on the league? What is LeBron's impact on his own game? Has he made his game better in 14 years? No. And I'll tell you 2 fundamental reasons why. He cannot drive left. Think about it. He only drives right. Most of the time, he only drives to his strong hand, which is his right hand. And secondly, for as big as he is, he hasn't developed a consistent post game ever. I don't care what anybody says. He has not developed a consistent post game. For him to be 6'8" and 270 some odd pounds or 250 pounds, cutting like a piece of granite, the dude's a freak athlete. I'll give you that. But you can be a freak athlete and not get the fundamentals down. He hasn't gotten the fundamentals down in 14 years. I'm sorry. And here's the other difference between MJ and LeBron James. And it was shown on Sunday night. No killer instinct. Period. if you're having a bad game like LeBron was having after 3 periods, you know the money period's coming up, you know Boston is making a charge, why did you not find ways of getting to the rim consistently? Why did you not find ways of getting to the foul line? Don't you know a couple of free throws would get you going and would give you some points in the fourth quarter? And would actually help you get to where you need to go, which is a 3-0 lead, which unfortunately you don't have because you, LeBron James, did not close. Now, people want to throw this ridiculous stat that LeBron is undefeated in the first round. And he is. Fact. Michael is undefeated in the finals. How do you like them apples? With MJ, it was a progression. He had to learn to get out of the first round. He did in 1988, defeating the Cavs in 5 games after getting swept by Boston in 86 and 87, and losing in 4 games to Milwaukee in 85. Then he got to the East Finals for the first time in 1989. Lost in 6 to Detroit. 1990, lost in 7 to Detroit. Lessons learned along the way. He began to trust his teammates. Guess what happened? A three-peat. Then he retires, plays baseball, comes back, middle of the 94-95 season, where they got beat by the Orlando Magic in 6 games. You think that didn't piss him off? It was a progression with MJ and his teammates. There has not been that kind of progression with LeBron James. There hasn't been. He had to run to Miami, LeBron did, to win his 2 titles. And even the first time he got to the finals in 2011, he lost to Dallas. He lost to Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks. You see where I'm going here? With MJ, there's been consistency. There's been progression. No kind of consistency with LeBron whatsoever. None. Yeah, I think I've rumbled a lot of people. But be that as it may, this comparison is silly, this comparison is stupid, and it shouldn't be made. Period. MJ's proven his worth. What the hell has LeBron done? To me, he hasn't done much. Other people have always saved him. He will never be the savior or the savior of the NBA or the closer in big games that people make him out to be. Period. He will never, ever, ever be that. And until I see different, my statement remains. Let me pause for a break. And when we come back, got another classic interview for you. This one came with Diamond Dallas Page. You want to talk about some good stuff? You're going to hear that. And I had a lot of fun with him when I recorded that interview 2 years ago. September 2015 is when we did that interview. That's our flashback interview coming up next. And then I'll put a bow on this bad boy. Snowman in the morning on this Tuesday. Back in the deuce.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You're bringing your daughter to her favorite pop star's concert. Do you A, wear earplugs?
Isn't this fun, Dad?
I'll have a soft pretzel.
B, remember the moment with matching concert t-shirts?
That's gonna be $180.
Or we can just take a photo.
C, show her how you used to do concerts.
We're going crowd surfing.
I can't. It's too heavy. Oh, my God.
Or D, just roll with it.
Woo! Justin! Look at us. We're over here.
Justin! OMG!
love you, Justin. I love you.
When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers. But that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org/AL. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
If an individual student athlete or team wins a high school state championship, it's an amazing thing.
And it goes in! It goes in!
It's also just the icing on the cake. That's because young people in Illinois who participate in education-based athletics are already winners. Studies show that win or lose, participation helps to impart skills they can use to enjoy greater success in other areas of their lives. School sports teach the benefits of teamwork, the value of self-motivation, and the importance of accountability. They also help to foster stronger work habits and higher levels of self-esteem. In other words, the true value of school sports can't be measured in terms of wins or losses. If an individual or team goes to state, it's an incredible accomplishment. But regardless of the outcome, today's student athletes are already destined to go far. School sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Illinois High School Association and the Illinois Athletic Directors Association.
What is the IHSA?
For more than 100 years, the Illinois High School Association and member schools have provided opportunities for students to participate in interscholastic athletics and activities, which produce vital education benefits.
Did you know the IHSA offers statewide championship series in 14 sports for boys and girls and sponsors statewide championships in 7 non-athletic activities? Did you know the IHSA licenses more than 10,000 contest officials in 13 different sports and that more than 300,000 students participate in IHSA sports and activities every year? Did you know activity programs only account for 1 to 3% of the overall education budget in a school? Did you know the nation's first sportsmanship mascot was created by the IHSA in 1997 with the birth of Attitude? Did you know students who participate in activity programs tend to have higher grades, better attendance, lower dropout rates, and fewer discipline problems than students that don't participate? Did you know activity programs provide valuable lessons for practical life situations? Teamwork, self-discipline, time management, dealing with adversity, and communication skills?
Now that you know, get in the game. Be a fan and join the fun. Support your local high school programs.
This message has been brought to you by the IHSA. Challenge yourself.
Hey, y'all. It's time for the SITM Classic Interview. You wrestling fans recognize this music I got playing in the background? Well, that music, the self-hi-fi, can only belong to one man and one man only. He has worked with the likes of Goldberg, with Sting, with Hulk Hogan, and anybody that's watched WCW knows that when you hear this music and this man coming through the crowd, it can only be one person, and I am so thrilled to have him on Snowman in the Morning right now, the one, the only, Diamond Dallas Page. Good morning, sir. I am so thrilled to have you on, my friend.
Where is the 219 area? Where are you guys at?
We're based out of Chicago, but the 219 code is Northwest Indiana.
Oh, okay. But you guys are based out of Chicago. Okay. That's
yeah.
Cool. We're going to be there pretty soon. So
yes, you cool. are, and I can't wait, man. I mean, how are things going for you?
Oh, it's going great. You know, we right now we're in the process of opening up the DDP Yoga Performance Center here in Smyrna, Georgia, which is just right on the tip of Atlanta, Georgia, and it's the first DDP Yoga Performance Center that's ever been done because it's more of a production studio, where we produce not just all our workouts, but cooking shows and stuff DDP Yoga for kids, and we developed this app that's coming out that's an interactive subscription app that will be out right on Black Friday. We're going to introduce it, which is our 4-year anniversary. And Stone Cold Steve Austin was just in at the PC. He came in to do some of what he's calling Austin bootlegs, and he did a podcast with myself. He did one with Jake Snake Roberts. He did one with Scott Hall, and primarily he was talking about their careers, but mainly the movie, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, which people can get tickets to right now in Chicago and in Woodridge, I believe it's called. We're about to get in the music box. I'm going to talked to Ryan today about setting up a meet and greet with myself and Jake and possibly Scott Hall as well. And we'll be showing the movie The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, which is getting amazing reviews. Anybody wants to know, where we're coming to in their area, or where they can see the movie, or eventually get the VOD, video on demand, or DVDs, will all be at JakeTheSnakeMovie.com. That's JakeTheSnakeMovie.com. You go there and sign up and get on our mailing list, and then you'll know when we're coming to that area.
What gave you and your folks the idea for that movie?
Well, it was pretty documented that Jake had fallen from grace in the movie Beyond the Mat. And, they had Jake doing crack and all sorts of things in there. It was no way for, people's heroes to go down. And, Jake is an admitted addict. He's addicted to, to booze, to pills, to cocaine, to crack. And Jake Roberts helped me throughout my career. I always say, without Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, there is no Diamond Dallas Page. He gave me every break that ever meant anything. But Jake Snake Roberts is the guy who helped me become, a 3-time world champion, a main eventer. And that was because he took me under his wing and he mentored me in my ring work. And it made a big difference in, what happened in my career. So I always wanted to pay him back. And I knew he was, pretty low, about as low as you can go. And I just reached out to him because I've had such success with, my DDP yoga, with my DDP yoga program that that I decided to. You shut that door, honey, please. Shut that door. Got a bunch of people in my house today. I've had such incredible results from the disabled veteran. I helped walk again. Lose 140 pounds in 10 months. More importantly, he lost his knee braces, his back brace, and wraparound canes, not just to walk but run. So that's my go-to video when I want to show people what's possible. And Jake I didn't even think he was as beat up and broken down as he was when we got there. He was over 300 pounds. He couldn't get out of a chair. He couldn't get into a chair. He couldn't go to the ground. He was really, really beat up. And that's what drugs and not working out and not taking care of yourself will do as you get older. It's called old age. Along with one time Jake was like a Ferrari. It's just he has 1.5 million miles on him. So long story short, I wanted to show people that what was possible, and I didn't know if anybody would ever even see The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, the documentary, because it only works if there's a resurrection. If he doesn't resurrect his who he was to where he is today, that doesn't mean anything. But he did, and we documented everything, all of the the ups and the downs that come through this journey in a 93-minute movie is pretty amazing.
The one and only Diamond Dallas Page joining me here. He joins us via the U.S. Tire and Auto Hotline, talking the resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts and other things. And, I am a big fan of yours, my friend. I'm a fan of you and how you performed. Of course, the Diamond Cutter. You gotta talk to me about the match that you had with the Mailman Karl Malone and then against Hulk Hogan and Rodzilla. I never got a chance to watch that one live. I've only seen clips of it, but how much fun was it with that kind of match?
Well, it was fun because I was friends with Karl Malone, and people who don't know Karl Malone played for Utah Jazz. You need to know that Karl Malone was the second leading scorer right today.
Right.
Jabbar is the only man, and Jabbar played until he was 40.
Mm-hmm.
And another guy who did yoga. Jabbar worked with a friend of mine named Brian Kest, and that's one of the reasons why Jabbar lasted so long.
Right.
7-footers don't last that long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but ones that you know, the ones that do any kind of yoga will have a lot longer shelf life. And you know, I developed DDT yoga for people who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga, because I was that guy. But back to Carl, you know, he's the second leading scorer of all time in the NBA, and probably had the strongest work ethic maybe ever in the NBA. And I had that work ethic in the WCW in wrestling, and that's why we got together, because we, you know, appreciated each other's work ethic. And then I actually came up with the idea when I heard that Rodman was coming back into WCW, you know, for his little thing like he did the year before.
Right.
And I went over to Bischoff's house and I said, what if it was me and Karl Malone against Rodman and Hogan? And I know that win or lose, they're going to end up on the Tonight Show.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what if we shoot the angle on the Tonight Show? And that Bischoff was like, that would be a great idea. And he was already talking to NBC quite a bit,
mm-hmm.
and they wanted to do business with us. So it all just worked out. And when we shot that angle, when Rodman was on the couch with Hogan and talking to Jay Leno, and then we came out from the wings, threw the chairs up in the air and threw them down and threw the diamond cutter sign up, place went crazy, man. And you know, the face off, and Jay was in the middle, and Drew Carey was there. I remember the comedian Drew Carey.
Yeah.
He came up to Jay Leno afterwards, and he was like, "Was that real? Was that real? What happened?" Like, he bought it, you know.
That is terrific. You mentioned something that I talk about a lot on my show, which is work ethic. One of the reasons, you know, I absolutely love you and Karl Malone and any other athlete or person that has that kind of undying, unbeatable work ethic. And, you know, it just means a lot when you have that going for you every day, when people try to shoot you down verbally or whatever. You just rely on that, and that go-to video that you talked about, I had a chance to watch it, and it's inspired me, you know, just to have that kind of ethic to lean on, you know, when people try to take you down.
Wow, you know, me and Steve, you know, Steve Austin's podcast is pretty amazing. He did one with Jake that he just put up on his podcast sleeve right now, Podcast One. And he really talks about it. He was totally blown away by the Performance Center. But when me and him finally sat down to do our podcast, you know, that's really what we talked about. We talked about, you know, people not believing in you. And like, when I told people, you know, that I was going to get professional wrestling at 31 and as a manager, they just like, what's he smoking? You know, but I made it happen.
Yeah.
And when I finally got to WCW as a manager after 7 months, they said, you know, between the long blonde hair, you know, and the rap and the diamonds and the clothes and the, you know, diamond dolls, it's like no one's paying attention to the wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I was too over the top of professional wrestling as a manager. You know, which you would think it's impossible to be too over the top of wrestling. But, you know, they said it wasn't my fault. But they said, what we should have done was put you in a pair of tights and boots and see if you can do this. And sort of laugh, you know, because I was 35 and a half. And I had 7 months left of my contract. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back. I never wanted to, when I was a kid, I never wanted to be a manager. I thought they were great, but I never wanted to be a manager. I wanted to be a wrestler.
Right.
So I got 7 months left of my contract. I'm going to do it. And I told Michael P.S. Hayes, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, one of the greatest characters.
Yeah.
He fell down on the floor laughing. You know, I mean, everybody laughed. Like, what's he smoking? He's never going to be able to pull this off. He's never going to learn enough. In enough time, he'll be too old. But they were wrong, you know. And at 40, that was 1996. My career took off like a rocket. And you know, 97 and 98, you know, I was on top of the world. According to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know, one of my closest friends, was rated #1 wrestler in the world. And without question, he was. Rated #4 was Diamond Dallas Page. from obscurity,
Mm-hmm.
2-3 years earlier. But, people laughed at it. But at that point, they couldn't laugh anymore because I was one of the top guys in the business.
That you were.
And then I blew my back out.
Oh.
I actually ruptured my L4 and L5 so badly. It wasn't one bump. It wasn't Kevin Nash's power slam, which is the reason I crawled over and tagged out. I was going to tag team Metric Canyon. But it wasn't that bump. It was all the bumps, all the travel, all the stress. And my body finally said, okay, uncle. And then, boom, my back blew out. And I had 3 top back specialists tell me, spine specialists tell me, you're never going to wrestle again. So I went to another one. They all kept saying the same thing, like, you're done. And I just signed a multi-million-dollar 3-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
And like I told you earlier, I'm a guy who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga.
Right.
But at that point, I would try anything. And I'm so glad that I was married to Kimberly at the time, and I was so glad that she taunted me enough to bully me into trying it. And in 3 weeks, I couldn't handle the humming and the chanting and the reach your arms to the heavens so the universe smiles back at you. I just couldn't handle any of that stuff. It's just not me. But I found a power yoga tape that had the least amount of that. And I started doing it, and I couldn't do any of the moves, so I had to figure out all the modifications and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, I started to put it together, and in 3 weeks, 3 weeks, I started to feel a significant difference in my flexibility and my core strength. Now, I'm doing rehab because I've rehabbed both shoulder surgeries, both knee surgeries.
Right.
So I know a lot about rehab. So I know a lot about breaking up scar tissue, which alleviates pain and also creates flexibility, which creates youth. So what I did is I started to mix the rehab techniques with the yoga positions, and I threw an old school calisthenics, push-ups, squats, crunches, but I did them with a slow burn movement, meaning like a 3 count or a 5 count or a 10 count, so it's going up and down. And what I figured out completely by accident, Snowman, completely by accident, every time you flex or engage a muscle, your heart's got to beat faster to get the blood to the muscle. Sort of like you lay down, your heart rate's the lowest ever. You sit up, it goes up. Stand up, it goes up. Walk, jog, run, up, up, up.
Yep.
I figured out by accident how to do that with DDP yoga. And in less than 3 months, I was back in the ring. At 42, they said my career's over. At 43, I was the heavyweight champ of the world. And what I created would be way more valuable than that ever could have been to me, because I developed a workout, DDP yoga, that was kick-ass cardio, would dramatically increase your flexibility, strengthen your core like never before, but here's the kicker. Minimal joint impact, virtually no impact, no stress on your body. So you heal, strengthen, have an amazing cardiovascular routine. And that's why that disabled veteran who couldn't walk without the aid of the knee braces, the back brace, and the cane, that's how he could start to lose the weight because of the dynamic resistance. And that's why that cat lost 140 pounds in 10 months. More importantly, lost the knee braces, back brace, and canes, and not just walk but ran. That's my workout. And that's what I got Jake on. That's what I got Scott on. Jericho, he's still wrestling. 4 years ago, they said his career was over.
Mm-hmm.
He saw the video of the disabled vet. When he saw it, he called me and he said, D, whatever you send me, I will do. He couldn't even sing, because he couldn't get the high notes. He likes to run around the stage. He couldn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So he was here's a guy who's lived the dream, not just in wrestling, but as a rock and roll singer. Man.
Right.
I mean, he's got 6 albums out. Here's a guy who lived both dreams, and both dreams were going to be taken away in one swoop. And when I helped him, and in 5 weeks, he was 85% pain-free. It was never a weight loss thing for Jericho. He was in great shape. But in 5 weeks, he was 85% pain-free. In 3 months, he was 100% pain-free. and headlined WrestleMania with CM Punk. So it really gave super validity, to DDP Yoga. And then he went to just doing DDP Yoga, period. And he took off 6 months from wrestling and toured with Fozzy. And then he showed up out of nowhere 2 years ago at the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
And he was number 2 in. And he lasted for 48 minutes and 38 seconds.
Yes.
48 minutes,
Right.
And only does DDP Yoga and not wrestling. So, it was just an amazing tribute.
Yeah.
And then he jumped off the cage I think he was there about 4 months ago. He was still with WWE, and he was there for about 4 or 5 months, and he just show up for a while and take off and do all his Fozzy stuff, then come back and do a little run. But the last match he had with Bray Wyatt, he jumped off the top of the cage at 44.
Mm-hmm.
That's called DDP Yoga.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I can help so many people. And it was never about weight loss. It was about healing my body. But it just turned out to be a really awesome side effect, the weight loss part.
Oh, man, the one, the only Diamond Dallas Page joining us via the U.S. Tire Hotline on this Friday edition of Snowman in the Morning on the Arena Sports Network and arenasportsnet.com. Some of the greats, Scott Hall, Sting, Goldberg, Macho Man, Kevin Nash, Scott Steiner, Bret Hart, Chris Benoit, you mentioned Chris Jericho, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, The Undertaker. What's it like working with these guys and like just getting in there and having fun with them and tangling with them?
Growing up, and these guys were only a couple years older than me. But, in the 80s, Hogan, he would be, they try to say he's expunged from WWE, which that won't last.
No, it won't.
He'll be given a reprieve and be able to come back as he should. That was a little bit stiff,
yeah.
I thought. But bottom line is, Hulk will survive, and he is immortal.
He's the immortal Hulk Hogan. That's why he has the name.
Yeah, him and Randy Savage, those being the two biggest names, from the 80s. Piper,
Mm-hmm.
of course, too.
Yeah.
The late, great Roddy Piper and the late, great Macho Man. Guys died too young in our business, you know, but, and it has a lot to do with the wear and tear, that your body can only take so much wear and tear. But Hulkster, him and Mach, they had come up to me earlier in my career, and like 4 years out before, like in '94, I remember both of them different times coming up to me and letting me know that whatever I'm doing, to keep doing it because they saw something in me, and that was very flattering at the time. But 3 years later, to be able to work with Macho, and 4 years later to be able to work with Hogan, these are the guys, and that's as high as you could get. Before Stone Cold Steve Austin made a name for himself, and of course The Rock, who's the biggest star in the world.
Yep.
These were the two guys, and to get me in the locker room with them and be on the same level, and at some points, like in '97, like I was maybe the most over guy in our company, because Sting went into the rafters. There was no Goldberg.
Right.
Of course, the NWO were the mega stars.
Yes.
But I was selling more stuff than they were.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, and it was crazy. Ric Flair being able to be, Ric Flair, me and him have had our ups and downs over the years, but we're in a really good spot right now. And I got a lot of, Ric Flair is Ric Flair. I mean,
right.
It doesn't get any better. You don't get any better than that. Between him and Michaels, Mike go down as between the two of them who would go down as the greatest ever because they can do everything.
Agreed.
I mean, if Steve Austin had, a longer run,
mm-hmm.
he didn't get dropped on his head.
Yeah.
He might be the guy. Who could do it all, from work to talk to, just I mean, get the TV. Having someone in the palm of their hand, in his interviews and everything, and him make you laugh, cry, scream, yell. But to be in that same level from the guy that came up from being a manager and a color commentator to becoming a wrestler at 35 and then to be on the same level of those guys 5 years later. It was an amazing accomplishment, and today, about 5 years ago, I was doing an interview with a guy named Brian Alvarez, and it always stuck with me because at one point he said to me, he said, "So where do you see Diamond Dallas Page 5 years from now?" And this is about maybe 5.5 years ago. And I said to him, Brian, I honestly believe that DDPO is going to dwarf my wrestling career. He's like, "What?" Because no one really knew about it.
Right.
But I knew some of the people that I was helping. I had a man walk up to me. We were at the Slam Dance Film Festival with the resurrection of Jake the Snake, and which, by the way, Slam Dance is one of the top independent film festivals for independent films, and we didn't win the film festival, but we really did, because Slam Dance, this whole tour that we're doing theatrically around the country, Dallas, New York, LA, Chicago, Atlanta, this whole tour is Slam Dance Presents. This is the first film they've ever gone out with, and it's pretty cool to be in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But God, what was I talking about before I said Slam Dance? What was it? My ADD said in there. I can't remember now. Where was I? There's someone going, "Oh no, you were right at that point. You changed direction."
Right.
And Snowman, you're not listening to me. It's funny because I do a lot of speaking. I do a lot of corporate speaking, and about my newest talk that I do is called "Owning It." Like owning it. Like I don't care what it is. I really break it down, and I tell people about my history. Like I grew up with ADD and dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading at a third grade level, page 30. And that's when I started to teach myself how to read. And again, it goes back to that work ethic thing, I never understood what ADD and dyslexia was. I just thought I had trouble with this reading thing, and it never made sense to me. And then I started to really try to tackle it. You got to face your fears, and I talk about that. And at some point, I might go off on a rant about something like I just did with you about the Slam Dance thing, and I'll go, "Oh man." I forgot where I was.
Right.
You thought that ADD stuff was BS, right?
Right.
And someone will, I go, "Where was I?" And then someone will answer, "Go, oh, you were listening. Awesome. Okay." And I go right back to it. And it gets a big laugh, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the funniest thing, that when you're not trying to be funny and you're just, having a good time, people laugh because it's so real. And there's times in the movie The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, you're going to laugh your ass off, But there's other times, like I have Austin on film talking about the movie. He was so blown away with the performance, the DDPO, the Performance Center looked like. I mean, blown away. And I always tell people, I know it sounds like I'm overselling it, but I'm not.
Right.
You're like, "Oh my God!" And but he also, the movie, he was so blown away by the movie because he saw our first cut, which was really about probably our 8th or 9th.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't let anybody see it until I thought it was what we wanted to represent. And but he saw it and he thought it was good. But Steve is never going to put you over unless he don't put anybody over. So he was never going to put you over unless he loved it. And when he saw the last cut, when it's going out to all the theaters now and will be on VOD and DVD, he was blown away. He actually said he shed a tear more than once.
And this is Stone Cold Steve Austin we're talking about.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, So really, really, really heartfelt. Everyone is, Josh Brolin, right? Josh is one of the top actors in the world.
Right.
And we have a friend of ours named Chris Bell. He's one of our executive producers, along with myself, on this film. And he actually given the film over to Josh because we wanted to maybe get him to come over and do our Q&A because we get like Chael Sonnen, one of the greatest UFC fighters, that I think is one of the greatest characters ever in in MMA. He did our Q&A in Portland, Oregon when we were there last week. A couple months ago, we did one in LA, and Joey Manganiello, the guy from True Blood. He was also in Magic Mike. He's marrying that gorgeous Latino chick, Sophia, whatever.
Right.
Great guy, really great guy. I'm a big fan. But he did the Q&A too. So what we wanted, we were hoping that maybe Josh would consider doing it because we're all big fans of his. And he sent Chris this text, which was so strong, man. He said that I'm just going to give you the one little quote here because a lot of it was personal. It put me over, and I don't want to say that because it will sound like I'm putting myself over. But he wrote a great story of hope, love, and real compassion.
Wow.
So that's the resurrection. I mean, that sums up, the resurrection of Jake the Snake. And again, anybody out there who wants to, check it out, because you grew up watching Jake or me or Scott or and
I did, man. I grew up watching you, watching Jake, watching the Hulkster, Macho Man Randy Savage. I tell you what, when I was growing up, we a bunch of my friends back in my own neighborhood in Chicago first got into wrestling. And I know we couldn't execute it perfectly, but one of the newest moves I wanted to try was the DDT, which is like basically a reverse pile driver. And my friend said, how are you going to do that? And it took me like 2 months to like really study it and watch it and see how they're doing it and see how both partners are working together. Finally did it. And my friend said, that took a lot of practice. I said, the guys take a lot of practice in doing it.
It's funny that Jake has the funniest story how that came to be. He was working at Lenny. I can't remember his name right now, but he was working with this guy who knew really well, and Jake would grab him in a face lock because his knee lift. He had a great knee lift. His knee lift would be his finish. And one night he was like pulling him into position to do the knee lift, and he fell.
Oh, wow.
That's how it happened.
That's how it happened?
Whoa. Yeah, and he went, whoa. Like, everybody goes, Jesus, whoa. Like, you get it out of nowhere, And Jake, not wanting to look stupid because he tripped, jumped up his feet. I didn't trip. Like, to himself. And Lenny just laid there because he was the real, Jake was still green as grass.
Right.
But Lenny was, a seasoned vet, and he laid there because he knew, like, wow, he's got something here. And again, happened by accident. Sort of like how I developed dynamic resistance with DDP yoga and figuring out that every time you flex or engage, your heart rate has to, increase because you have to beat faster to get the blood to the different muscles.
Right.
And that's completely by accident. I mean, it was like I had a heart monitor on. I was doing push-ups. I looked at my heart monitor. My heart rate was like 130. I was like, what the hell? What's wrong with this heart monitor? I'm not running. I'm not on the elliptical or the Stairmaster or the bike.
Right. I'm
in one position. And I thought it was wrong. And then as I figured it out, some of the greatest things happen by mistake, happenstance, or whatever they call it,
Oh, man. I hope everyone has enjoyed this conversation. We're going to have it again on our podcast. Go to arenasportsnet.com/SIT morning to download the podcast and download this interview. The one, the only, Diamond Dallas Page, one of my wrestling heroes, is on my show. Man, an honor, an absolute honor.
So let me ask you, are you going to be at the we will be in Woodridge, and I'm about to cut the deal with the Music Box. So we'll be in Woodridge on, let me think, I think it's October 9th. And you can get tickets now because we're going to sell out. And they might add another show or two, but there's only so many we can add before we have to get out of Chicago and head on to the next city. So I'm telling you, we'll be doing doing PR on the 8th. The 9th we will be in. So let's get together again on the 8th. And we'll make sure we get a phone to you again to remind everybody that we will actually be there. But you want to get your tickets like ASAP.
Yes.
And the quickest way to do that is I can't remember what the name of the theater is. And I think it's Hollywood Boulevard.
Hollywood Boulevard.
In Woodridge. Yes, that's the one. And then today, probably later this weekend, probably later today, the Music Box right down there in downtown Chicago, they will they'll have the probably tickets up for sale, and we'll be doing Saturday there. So a Q&A after, and then we're going to do a meet and greet. People can get the signed poster of the movie, or T-shirts or pictures or whatever. So we'll be doing all that too. So and I'm sure me and Jake will be there. Not sure if Scott's going to make that one or not. He might be, but that'll be October 9th and most likely October 10th. It will be in Chi-Town, and that would be a great place for people to come out and see the movie. And I think they're both keeping it in the theater for a week as well. So if you can't make it, to catch the Q&As with us, then you can still go in and see the theater. Or all the information is at JakeTheSnakeMovie.com. Go there today, sign up, make sure you're on the list there. So you can find out when the VOD's coming out, the DVD. And if you want to check the new DDP Yoga, that's a no-brainer, ddpyoga.com.
I'm definitely going to get into DDP Yoga. If I don't make it on the 9th, it's probably because I have a football call, because I think that's a Friday night. But put me down for the 10th. I will definitely be there. It would be my pleasure and my honor, sir.
Well, again, talk to my PR girl, and we'll make that happen. We'll get together so we can do something on the 9th or the 8th, maybe the 8th or something.
Okay.
Coming into that, do a little PR going into that. All right, bro?
All right. Thanks, my friend. I appreciate the time. Diamond Dallas Page joining me on Snowman in the Morning. Thank you very much, my friend.
It's been your pleasure, Snowman.
Yes, it has. Thank you. Thank you so much.
What do basketball, choir, drama club, and marching band all have in common? They're all high school activities that offer learning opportunities not necessarily found in the classroom. They take up just a fraction of a typical Illinois high school's budget, and they go a long way to giving young people the tools they need to thrive. High school activities, they're more than extracurricular. They're extra important, too. This message presented by the Illinois High School Association and the Illinois Athletic Directors Association.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve. Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Did y'all enjoy that interview? I certainly did. Thanks to the folks with Diamond Dallas Page for making that happen 2 years ago, and everyone that helped make that happen. And I hope to have him back on when we get fully launched and fully going. I hope to have him back on. We're going to wrap this bad boy up on this express edition of Snowman in the Morning. And I'm going to wrap it up by giving a quick recount of why I went off the air for as long as I did. And a lot of it has to do with the inconsistency of what I was doing the show. But I tell you what, I'm in a much better place now than I was even a year ago. I didn't realize there was so much that I had to deal with. And in the interim, I moved. I moved to a place that I wound up hating. And I hated it because I was still going through stuff and I hadn't fought my way through everything. And I put that on myself. I hold no grudges. I hold no ill will towards the people that tried to get me situated in the place where I was. But I'm happy to be back home. Sweet home Chicago, as the saying goes. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to be starting over where I am. And I'll borrow a question that was posed to a popular radio host. And the host's name is Colin Cowherd. When I heard his story about how he how he left ESPN and went to do his show at Fox Sports, beg your pardon, he was posed a very good question by his wife. And his wife asked him this question: are you living where you want to live, and are you doing what you want to do? He answered no to both. I posed the same question to myself, and I got the same answer. So, like I said yesterday, if you don't like your area, if you don't like your current situation, change it. So that's what I did. I changed it. Pretty simple. Now, there's still a lot more that needs to be done for the change to be complete. But you know what, doggone it? I'm loving it. And I can't say thank you to the folks that have been behind me the entire time. When they offered advice and I didn't take it, and I wound up taking it a little later, I couldn't help the fact that they were there for me. And quite frankly, if it were not for them, I wouldn't be here. Were it not for the family that's stuck in my corner, I wouldn't be here. I'm at the bottom and I'm starting over again, but you know what? I love the challenge. That's my spoken word for the day. Embrace the challenge of every day. Embrace the chance that you have to make a difference and to make an impact, be it small or be it large. Make a positive impact every day. And that'll put a bow on this Tuesday edition of Snowman in the Morning. We hope that y'all have enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow when I will welcome Rick Curti and his efforts to bring Major League Baseball to Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, you heard him on the show before. We're going to have even more fun with this conversation. Hope you all have a great Tuesday. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. And always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. Till tomorrow, Snowman out.